A new crisis is brewing up in South America. US President Donald Trump has given a warning to the Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. He has suggested him to step down or face severe consequences. Now, this is not a sudden development. Earlier also, the United States of America has caused blockade of the oil boats or ships moving from Venezuela. Then came the bombing of the ships from Venezuela. Then we have seen the development in the military terms where aircraft carriers were being deployed in the region as such. Overall, we can say the geopolitical situation or tension between US and Venezuela is heating up and anything can happen. So what does it mean for the oil trade and geopolitics of the entire region as well as the world? Let us try to examine this in more detail. First of all, if you try to look at the most recent development, the president of US, Donald Trump, has warned Maduro that it would be smart for him to step down. We know that Maduro is considered as dictator by United States of America and also by many people of Venezuela themselves, and it is believed that he stole the elections and that is how he has been able to remain in power for such a long period of time. At the same time, Donald Trump has stated that if Maduro does not heed his warning, if he decides to play tough, it would be having irreversible consequences for his regime and his future as well. Thus, many of the political experts and pundits have stated that it might mark finally the end of 12 years of iron fist rule with which Nicolas Maduro has ruled Venezuela as such. Now, before also, in a bid to tighten the noose around Maduro and especially Venezuelan politicians, Donald Trump's administration has decided to classify Maduro's regime as FTO. FTO here basically means Foreign Terrorist Organization. And the reason behind this that was given was very simple. Trump administration had said that Maduro was basically stealing the investment of United States, the oil that belonged to United States of America. They have stolen resources in last many decades that actually belong to US, and by using this they have funded terror activities, they have led to drug smuggling, or they have promoted drug smuggling, and this drug is flowing across the border of US and the source is Venezuela itself. Also, he has been charged with, or basically can say allegedly he has been claimed to have been involved in human trafficking and also theft of US assets as such. Now, because of the classification of his regime as FTO, Foreign Terrorist Organization, it gave power to the Trump administration to dramatically expand legal and military options and operations against Maduro's regime as such. Now, what is the development that we have seen taking place before? So, first of all, the oil tanker, because if you try to understand, Venezuela still has the largest reserve in the world as far as any country is concerned. Even the oil reserves of Venezuela is many times higher than Saudi Arabia. But unfortunately, Venezuela is not able to produce and extract its oil due to lack of capital or lack of investment. However, whatever field it is operating, the oil is largely being used to fund Venezuela's regimes as such, or Nicolas Maduro's regime as such. And at the same time, you have to understand that Venezuela's oil is sanctioned oil. Thus, US has justified the total and complete blockade of sanctioned oil tankers. They even have suggested that through the Venezuelan ships, it is not only the sanctioned Venezuelan oil, but also Iranian oil is flowing to different countries, different customers and marketers. So all oil shipment that is entering or leaving Venezuela, Trump has stated it would be facing severe sanctions and such. And the reason behind this is simple: to cut off the regime financing its operation through oil export, and that becomes easier to justify if you have declared the entire regime as FTO. Now also, Trump is trying to give a strategic messaging here by posturing the diplomatic or military posture if we talk about around Venezuela as such. So first of all, he has stated that if you look at the entire region, Venezuela is completely surrounded by US naval power. And to reflect it, we have understanding that the largest armada in South American history, that is what Trump claims, is being formed around Venezuela. And if they try to do something which US does not like, if they do not change their ways, or if Maduro does not step down from his presidential post, they will get a shock like nothing they have ever seen before. If you're liking the video, please ensure to hit the like button and also try to subscribe our channel. Now, coming back to topic again, if you talk about the seizure and sanctions, Venezuelan oil tanker was seized last week also, and it was carrying, as we have discussed, oil from various sanctioned countries. US, on the other hand, has stated that whatever oil it is seizing, it will not give it to some other country or return back to Venezuela later, but rather it will retain and will use it for own purposes as such. At the same time, the sanctions have been imposed on Maduro's family as well as many Venezuelan businessmen who are thought to be, or basically who are believed to be, very close to the regime as such. Now, if you talk about the military buildup, once the administration has declared Maduro's regime as FTO, it becomes easier, as we have discussed, to build up military around to curtail their activities and such. So, US in this context has basically deployed USS Gerald R. Ford, which is considered as the largest aircraft carrier that US has in its navy. Now, this deployment has happened in the Caribbean Sea, and also to support the deployment of this aircraft carrier, several air support is also being given here. And for example, B-1 Lancer bombers have been flown recently near Venezuelan coast in a way of giving strategic masses and to create a panic or fear in the Venezuelan administration. At the same time, if you talk about military surveillance, it is observed that US is continuously surveilling and taking out a lot of important critical information, what is going on and what kind of development is going on both inside and outside of Venezuela here. So regular presence of military stations and outposts have increased. Listening stations, we can say, they also have further increase in number. Now, as far as Venezuela is concerned, the major problem that Trump administration has is related to the drug operation or flow of drug to Venezuela. This was a warning not only given to Venezuela but also to other countries around the US such as Mexico, Canada and even China, because Trump claimed all these countries are somehow responsible for the flow of drug inside the American territory. Now, US has conducted strikes on alleged drug carrying boats. Again, operation is ongoing for several months. There is no end in sight as such, and this has resulted in the death of dozens of people here also. At the same time, in the US Congress itself, scrutiny over the action of Trump administration is growing, because the question that comes in mind is whether Trump's action is, or Trump's administration action is legal. Does any kind of such attack require congressional approval, Senate approval or not? And also, because of the rising casualties, there is a concern about the human rights violation as well. Now, whether there is a real possibility of military action inside Venezuela, whether US will be sending its troops on the ground, till now it seems that Trump has though threatened about it, that he will carry out strikes if necessary, but for now it seems that there is no direct land invasion plan so far. US will keep on encircling Venezuela in the ocean and will try to apply pressure or put pressure by carrying out attack and also by using diplomatic means. The strategy heavily currently relies on a strong economic strangulation, because no matter how powerful a government or powerful leader is, if he is not able to provide for the basic means, provide basic means for its citizens, obviously the Venezuela itself might see an internal revolt, and this is what US is hoping for. Economic strangulation basically will cut off any kind of fund supply to Maduro regime, and that might cause a pressure on him to give the reins to someone else in country as such. Naval dominance, obviously we have seen, is being reflected here, plus psychological pressure is continuously being applied here. If you look at the strategic assessment of this entire scenario, one thing is clear, that US strategy currently aims to force Maduro's collapse without any direct intervention, without any direct invasion, we can say. At the same time, it combines sanctions, naval blockade and terror designation threat, FTO designation that I talk about, as a way of causing them to basically capitulate. And however, the risk obviously is there, because if we talk about Venezuela, some other country might also follow the same suit, and this might lead to regional instability, because Maduro has been ruling the country for such a long period of time, and if he vacates the office to leave a power vacuum, this can be further taken advantage of by the rebel groups, or by, we can say, some forces that might be more damaging and destructive to the nation as such. Escalation into armed conflict can be seen if Venezuelan military and army try to or began to attack as a last resort or carry out retaliatory strike against the US Navy or US naval forces, and international backlash might also be seen, as for now it seems that Venezuela is continuously being backed by both China as well as Russia as such. So it marks a decisive hardline turn in US Latin American policy, which till now US has largely followed, as not directly getting involved in the internal political squabbles and differences. But under Trump's administration, it seems that the shift has already taken place, being reflected in the crisis in Venezuela. So that's all about this particular video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, as a subscribe channel for more such content. Thank you very much.